Welcome to Fifth Gear Europe, the series that brings you the best motoring stories from across the continent. In this show, motoring journalist Anette Latva-Piikkila drives the supercar everyone's been waiting for, the Ferrari California. I'm in Sweden visiting a man who makes the world's coolest hot rods. Jonny Smith drives a hand-built car for the masses, the new Dacia Sandero. And racing driver Sabine Schmitz finds out which small coupe is the fastest, the BMW 125 or VW Scirocco.
This is the new Ferrari California. Now on paper it has its problems. It's the least powerful Ferrari on sale. It's more expensive than the faster F430 and it's heavier than the more spacious 599 GTB. Even in the metal you can find faults. It's quite choppy at the back and looks overstyled down the sides. Unsurprisingly, Ferrari don't agree. According to them, it's a beautiful, convertible, refined Grand Tourer and a tactile sports car all in one package. It sounds like it could be 3 Ferraris for the price of 1. First I'm gonna try out its Grand Touring abilities. Ferrari wants the California to appeal as much to women as to usual men. I want it to be relaxing but involving, and I don't want to ruffle my new expensive haircut. With chassis and gearbox in comfort mode, the California is a perfect cruiser. The ride is engineered to perfection. Ferrari paid particular attention to the damping and pushes to make the car forgiving over bumps, while still being composed. At cruising speed, the V8 feels perfect. The purple is there, but it's not overpowering, and it is happy to go unnoticed. Even the new gearbox feels happy to blend into the background, and it is much more refined than the automatic manual box in the F430. At 180,000 euros, it costs around 10,000 euros less than the Lamborghini Gallardo Spider, but feels the better all-rounder. And while it's pricier than the Mercedes SL and Bentley Continental GTC, its sports car abilities are in a different league. And that feeling of difference continues inside. While some prestige cars present their luxury in an understated manner, the interior of the California is designed to excite. Even the stitching makes me smile. So, it is a Grand Tourer. Maybe the back seats are a bit small to take 2 people, but Ferrari never said it was a 4-seater. And it has a further trick. We've seen a folding Ferrari roof before on the Super America, but this is leagues ahead. It takes just 14 seconds and some magical Italian origami to transform the accomplished convertible to a sports coupe. With the roof up, it immediately looks better proportioned and more brutal. So, as it now looks like it means business, I'd better test Ferrari's final claim that this is also a proper sports car. Despite it weighing around 1,700 kilograms, it still feels quick. Ferrari claim 0 to 100 kph can happen in just under 4 seconds, and say a lot of the speed comes from the amazing new gearbox. It's the first Ferrari with a twin clutch setup and the first with 7 gears. With Manettino set to sport, the whole car tightens up and you can physically feel it going from tourer to sports car. Peak power of 460 PS arrives at 7,750 RPM, and there are very few sounds better than this. All the way to 8,000 RPM. So peak torque of 483 Newton meters comes in quite high at 5,000 RPM. It has brilliant pull lower down the rev range. The engine reflects the California's dual personality perfectly, cruiser and screamer. Can the chassis pull off the same trick?
Compared to highest Ferrari standard, the car feels slightly tame. The brakes don't have immediate bite and the steering is much more lighter than you would think. With the engine over the front wheels, it can't quite match the razor-sharp response of the mid-engined F430, but somehow it feels just as organic and fun. If you drove this after a Mercedes SL or a Bentley Continental GTC, you would wonder how the others got it so wrong.
If I'm judging the California against Ferrari's sky-high standards of the F430, then it's the sports car aspect that is the least convincing of its talents. But by anyone else's, it's awesome. It makes you realize just how good Ferrari are. It's not their best sports car or their best tourer, but it does both better than any other car you can buy.
Think of hot rods, and images of bearded American men will spring to mind. Bending metal, swigging beer, and tweaking carburetors. It's the type of big, brash and noisy hobby that's perfect for the US of A. Usually, us European folk just leave them to it, but not in Sweden.
Here, it's a massive scene. Between 4,000 and 5,000 old Yank motors get imported over here every year. Basically, it started after the Second World War. Sweden escaped relatively unscathed, so every car salesman in Detroit came over to try and sell cars to the only people who had any money left.
The end result of this passion are cars like these. This alcohol-fueled pro-mod Chevy Camaro belongs to 2 times FIA European champion Patrick Wikström. On the drag strip, this monster puts out 2,500 PS and can crack nearly 600 kilometers per hour. Anders Envil runs this Chevrolet Impala SS, the fastest Impala SS in the world. And yep, that means faster than any Impala SS in America. But the hot rods I want to drive don't come from America. I'm here for something more homegrown.
Which is why I'm going to meet a man called Leif here at his garage in southern Sweden. I'm pretty sure that there's going to be no hairy bearded types in here. Apart from me, obviously.
What Leif does in his workshop is much more Swedish. He makes hot rods out of Volvos.
Leif, hi.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good, thanks.
Nice to meet you. Tell me, how will this start?
It started, I worked for Volvo development department for some years. After that I worked for Koenigsegg, and all the time I had these things as a hobby.
Yeah.
And I think it was like 4 years ago I got the award Hot Rod of the Year for one of my cars.
Yeah.
And that was the goal for doing this full time.
His most famous design so far is the Hot Rod Jakob, which was designed and built with inspiration from Volvo's first ever production car. The quality of the Jakob excited Volvo so much that they borrowed it off him, then showed it off at motor shows across the world. And they still haven't given it back. But the Jakob was just the start of things. This is one of his V8 Speedsters. It's actually been sold to a customer, but hasn't been picked up yet. You probably think that because it's got a V8, it's just a conventional hot rod with a smoother body. But you'd be wrong. This V8 is a 4.4-litre Volvo unit, converted to run on ethanol or petrol. Power is 340 PS, delivered through a proper Volvo Geartronic box, and it only weighs 1,200 kilos.
The body is made of aluminium and carbon fiber.
So quick then?
Yeah, quite.
It just looks so beautifully clean, lots of kind of retro design to it, but it's a very modern twist.
Yeah, I like concept cars, and I would like to do a hot rod look a little bit like a concept car.
Yeah. But it's still got a Volvo steering wheel.
Yeah.
I recognise this dash look, it's got a Volvo dial set.
Yeah.
So you've integrated it all really seamlessly with your idea of what it should be.
Yeah.
Do you know what would make me happy? If I could drive one, but this is sold, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think he allowed you to drive it.
So have you got anything that I can have a go in, maybe?
We have one more car.
Should we go and have a look?
Yeah.
Nice.
Life's pride and joy is his own T6R model. The engine is a straight-six twin-turbo out of Volvo's biggest and heaviest 4x4, the XC90. But wearing sleek, light bodywork and a panoramic glass roof, it's now a little bit quicker. Over the past 4 years, Life has driven over 10,000 kilometres in it all over Europe, and it really is his labour of love. Best not stick it in the nearest hedge then.
Ah, this is my kind of thing. Have you ever done any performance figures on this car? It's got to be pretty quick.
Yeah, I think so.
Under 4 to 100 kilometres an hour? You've never tried it?
I haven't.
How could you resist? This feels like a sports car. It feels little and light and nimble. You've got to be happy with that.
The suspension is made like a sports car. It's a mid-engine and it's light.
The whole Volvo connection, they obviously love what you do.
Yeah.
Do they help you with anything? Do they give you engines or do you have to buy them still?
I can buy engine for a little less price than normal price, of course. And they help me on different things, but most of it I do most of things myself.
Yeah. All in that little workshop?
Yeah, in that small workshop, yeah.
Do you know what? I reckon that Life is a genius and his cars, well, they're simply stunning. Making something out of Volvo parts, but with Swedish style and American roots, could have produced something utterly horrible, like Swedish meatballs served with maple syrup and cheese. But just look at that. I bet Volvo are gutted he left.
In part 2, Jonny's in Romania testing the Dacia Sandero. And which coupe is quickest around the track? VW or BMW?
Cars designed to be retro are all over the shop at the moment. You've got your Fiat 500, your new Mini and of course your new Beetle all flying off the shelves. Car designers are literally spending millions on making sure their take on the past is the most fashionable. But I've come to a place to see a car that's bucking that trend. Romania. You see, while retro design costs money, retro manufacture actually saves money. This brand new Dacia Sandero doesn't have ornately designed bodywork or complicated interior mouldings, so it's really easy to make. Indeed, it's so easy to make, it's put together by hand, not robots, and people are a lot cheaper than robots. In fact, the normal people that put this Sandero together are so cheap, you can buy a brand new one for €7,000. Now that's fantastic for a car that looks this modern, but it's also a little bit scary because I have to drive it. And I don't want the normal people who put these wheels on to have had a bit of a lazy day. I needn't worry though, because Dacia is now owned by Renault and the Sandero is built on the same platform as the Clio and Modus. In fact, it's probably tougher than those cars because Dacia know it's likely to have a harder life on Romanian roads. So it's got extra underbody protection and a raised ride height. It isn't often that car makers brag about raising the ride height. You know, I'll be honest, it's not a rubbish car to drive. I can't criticise it for being pathetic. The brakes are pretty good. It does stop. It does steer okay. Because it's just really a Renault that's about 3 or 4 years old. The styling on the outside is distinctly modern. I wouldn't say it's particularly exciting. You're not going to polish it every day. You're not going to vacuum it every night. But you will be able to get loads of kids and stuff in it and use it as a car. A modern day, awesome car. A 13-second 0 to 100 kph sprint and a 161 kph top speed feel painfully slow. If it was me, I'd probably wait for the cracking 1.5 Renault diesel to be available in a few months' time. So, performance-wise, well, it's probably a C grade at school, not too bad, but inside is where the Sandero shines quite nicely. For a start, it's based upon a Clio, so it's fairly modern, not too offensively done. Clio steering wheel, Clio gear knob, it's got electric windows, the seats are comfortable, I haven't needed an osteopath. Plus the doors are good because they stop dogs from jumping in and biting you and giving you diseases. And also on the safety front, it has ABS as standard and a respectable NCAP 3-star rating. I've always had a little thing about circular air vents on cars, and I've found that if you squint really, really carefully and you stare at these dimply surrounds, you think that you're in an Audi TT. What Renault have done to Dacia is make them one of the most modern car makers in the world. OK, so I know the car is probably one of the least modern new cars you can buy, but they're already turning out 62 cars a day and selling them to 50 countries around the world. Who knows, one day the Sandero could be considered a classic, in a retro kind of way.
Today I have come to the Assen TT circuit in the Netherlands just to find out which of these two coupes is the fastest. Both cost around 40,000 euros, both are German and both are made for sporty drivers with a sense of style. This is the new VW Scirocco TSI. It's got a 4-cylinder 2-liter turbocharged engine producing 200 PS. It weighs just 1,300 kilograms, giving it a power-to-weight ratio of 154 PS per ton. The BMW 125 has a 3-liter normally aspirated engine producing 218 PS. It's also got the advantage of rear-wheel drive. However, it weighs 200 kilograms more, so its power-to-weight ratio is slightly worse. But which is fastest? I'll start with the benchmark car. Now, before I start setting lap records, I try to feel the car at its limits, especially without DTC. Turn in. Oh, it feels very nice. Peak power comes in quite high at 6,100 RPM. Also, the maximum torque of 270 Newton meters is available much lower down, at 2,500 revs. The car feels like a track car, but the engine with the 6-cylinder, I'm not sure if it's really that powerful, because the revs go up quite boring. There's no point where you can feel actually the power. So, that's a shame. And the gaps between the gears are very big. Third gear, power! The car looks so sporty with the seats and the steering wheel like a Formula 1 car, but the engine, the 6-cylinder, should go a little bit better. Okay, let's try to go sideways. Whoa. Some cars have a very light steering, but here you have a good connection with the front tires to the road. Brakes are good as well! But before I melt the tires down to their canvas, I need to set a fast lap to compare to the Scirocco.
Here we go! Come on!
Eagle-eyed viewers will notice this 125 has a sports body kit and seats, but underneath the mechanics and suspension are completely standard. Please don't understeer. Ah! That turn never ends! Back to second. And go for it! Just perfect! Now we come to the line! Yeah! Woo. The BMW 125 Coupe crosses the line in 2 minutes 11 seconds. Time for the VW. Okay, I need the ESP completely off, but you can't switch it off 100%. While the Scirocco has 20 PS less than the 1 Series, it has more torque, with 280 Newton meters. Considering it has a 2-liter compared to the 3-liter engine of the BMW, that's very impressive. Woo! Little white Scirocco. Okay, back to third. The gearbox is totally different to the BMW. Here I can use third gear very easy, and the BMW had to use second in the same corner. But I can feel a little bit more power because the gap between the gears is not so big. Woo! Okay, now the right hander and power. I can accelerate way earlier than in the BMW. And brake! Yeah, on the brakes the whole weight goes to the front and the rear is not very stable. So you have to be careful when you brake hard and you are not really 100% straight, then you have a big problem. The BMW was much more stable on the brakes. But still, I was surprised how good the little VW felt. So how would it perform against the clock? Here's the line, and we go for it now! Oh! Go, 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 go! Scirocco, Scirocco! I think you are fast. think I can leave third gear in a triple right-hander. Release, the rear comes out, yeah, good! At the first checkpoint, the Scirocco is just 0.2 of a second behind the BMW. So, back to second. And power as soon as possible. By the second checkpoint, the VW has fallen 0.9 seconds behind. And the last chicane, and power! Now we come to the start finish line, and chaka! Woo! And eventually the Scirocco crosses the line in 2 minutes 12.5, just 1.5 seconds behind the 125. So the BMW wins, but unusually for a racing driver, it's not the car I'd want to drive home. The Scirocco might be a fraction slower, but it more than makes up for that in character. And I haven't even mentioned how good it looks.